welcome to this edition of Hebrew Nation News on YouTube. At Hebrew Nation Radio, we bring you news that is not found in the mainstream media. We look at the facts on the ground in the news and then connect those facts back to the scriptures, always asking the question, what time is it? We don't just give you the facts, but we also ask, what does it mean? Reporting to you live with boots on the ground from the land of Israel, this is Warrior Bride with Hebrew Nation News on YouTube. Escalation of proxy war between Russia and U.S. in Syria. How long before a direct military confrontation? This is a Hebrew Nation News commentary and analysis. When I look at the news headline, U.S. and Saudis to increase support of jihadis in Syria, the first thought that comes to my mind is this. Truly, this is shaping up to be a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia, with Syria as the theater where the proxy war is taking place. Wars are not fought conventionally anymore. They are fought in a multitude of ways. Today we can see wars being fought at these various levels. Economic jihad warfare. The EU and US dealt a punishing and severe economic blow to Russia in July of 2014 when severe economic sanctions were placed on Russia due to the Ukraine conflict. The price of oil dropped to below $55 a barrel. One half of Russia's gross domestic product comes from the sale of natural gas and oil through the Ukraine pipelines down to European markets. That was an economic jihad attack that came from the West against Russia. Another form of warfare is media jihad and warfare. This is a war of ideas, waging for minds in the battlefield of public perception and point of view. We see this with the skewing and biased reporting coming from mainstream media outlets that paint Israelis as the aggressors and the problem during the Third Intifada knife stabbings. The censoring and skewing of media reporting is to sway world opinion in favor of the Palestinians. Another level of warfare is demographics jihad warfare. We are seeing this happening now with massive migrations, or should I call it invasions, of Muslims from Middle Eastern nations as they fan up north into Europe and out west into the U.S. Could it be possible that the current Christian Holocaust that we are now seeing with ISIS jihadis beheading persecuted believers, could it be that their ultimate goal is to purposefully create turmoil on the Middle East home front to create, initiate, and cause the massive migration and invasion of tens of thousands of Muslims to migrate up into Europe and across the sea to the U.S.? If a global caliphate is truly the end game goal, one way to work toward that goal is for Muslims to occupy and be placeholders in Europe and the U.S. so that Islam becomes the dominant culture, paradigm, and worldview. Another level of warfare is military jihad and warfare through proxies. The proxies act on behalf of the superpowers who fund, equip, and train them. We now have Russia invading aggressively into Syria. Russia is fighting for its economic survival. It was dealt a crushing blow to its economy during July of 2014, when oil and gas prices were manipulated downward. Russia wants to prevent Syria from falling into a government that would be friendly to the West, as Syria would replace the Ukraine as the next pass-through pipeline nation to move Middle Eastern oil up north to European markets. This would deal a severe economic blow to Russia, so they are fighting back on a military front to prevent this from happening. Russia also wants to become a key player in the Middle East and forge strong ties with the Arab world. Enter the U.S. on the scene, and a proxy military war is now being fought on Syrian soil. The U.S. is now teaming up with Saudi Arabia and is training, equipping, and funding the jihadi rebels who are fighting against Bashar al-Assad. Basically, these jihadi rebels are proxies to now fight against Russia, who has come onto the scene to support and prop up Bashar al-Assad. This is a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia. For an excellent, in-depth analysis of why Russia made a military move into Syria, see Eddie Chumney's article, Analysis: Why Russia Aggressively Went into Syria to Support Bashar al-Assad. What's the bottom line here? It's all about oil. Who gets it? Who controls it? Who moves it? And who controls where it goes? Finally, the last stage is out-and-out military conflict between the superpowers themselves. This hasn't happened yet, but I believe we are moving in that direction. We've already seen the first volley of economic warfare happen in the summer of 2014. The economic warfare has now escalated to a proxy military war in Syria. The final phase, I believe, will be an out-and-out military war straight on between the superpowers involved. Russia is in the process of building an alliance with Iran and China. I believe there's a day coming in the not-too-distant future where this alliance will militarily strike American coastal cities. The proxy war will end, and the direct confrontation will happen between these superpowers. I believe we will see American coastal cities struck by ICBM missiles, and these cities will burn. Why do I believe this? The facts on the ground that we are seeing in the news lines up with what the scriptures tell us about the destruction of end-time daughter of Babylon nation, which I believe is the USA. In Jeremiah chapter 50 it is written, "For out of the north a nation comes up against her, which shall make her land desolate, and no one shall dwell therein. They shall move, they shall depart, both man and beast." Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 3. And in Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 9 it is written, "For behold, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall array themselves against her. From there she shall be captured. Their arrows shall be like those of an expert warrior. None shall return in vain." And finally, in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 41, "Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the ends of the earth." More specifically, we are told at least one of the identities of this end-time alliance of nations from the north, who will come against the end-time daughter of Babylon nation. They are the ancient Medes, which is modern-day Iran. Oh, and did I say that we have just given Iran the green light to pursue its nuclear weapons program? Obama may have intended to use Iran as his proxy weapon against Israel, but guess what? That proxy nation has a mind of its own, and scriptures tell us that this nation, Iran, is going to militarily attack the end-time Babylon nation. In Isaiah chapter 13, verses 17 and 18, it is written, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, who will not regard silver, and as for gold, they will not delight in it. Also their bows will dash the young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye will not spare children." And again, in Jeremiah chapter 51, verses 11 to 13, it is written, "Make the arrows bright, gather the shields. Yahweh has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his plan is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance for his temple. Set up the standard on the walls of Babylon, make the guards strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for Yahweh has both devised and done what he spoke against the inhabitants of Babylon. O you who dwell by many waters, abundant in treasures, your end has come, the measure of your covetousness." And finally, in Jeremiah chapter 51, verses 28 and 29, it is written, "Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, its governors and all its rulers, all the land of his dominion, and the land will tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant." What does this mean? As I stand and watch on the wall, I see war clouds looming on the USA horizon. I believe that what we are seeing now is the staging for the destruction of the end-time daughter of Babylon nation, that is, Babylon America. There is a time coming when Yahweh's people will need to leave the country. They will need to flee from Babylon America. There will be no safe place in Babylon America. Over and over again in the scriptures we are told to come out of her, my people. In Revelation chapter 18 verses 2 through 5 it is written, "And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury." And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and Yahweh has remembered her iniquities." And again, in Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 6, we are told, "Flee from the midst of Babylon, and everyone save his life. Do not be cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He shall recompense her." And again, in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 28, it is written, "The voice of those who flee and escape from the land of Babylon declares in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our Elohim, the vengeance of his temple." And again, in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 16, it is written, "Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him who handles the sickle at harvest time, for fear of the oppressing sword. Everyone shall turn to his own people, and everyone shall flee to his own land." And finally, in Jeremiah 51, verses 49 and 50, it is written, "As Babylon has caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon the slain of all the earth shall fall. You who have escaped the sword, get away. Do not stand still. Remember Yahweh from afar, and let Jerusalem come to your mind." As I thought about this whole situation, I thought to myself, it's a little bit like a crapshoot when I roll the dice and then I hope I don't roll 2 ones on the dice. I can play the odds and remain, linger a little longer in Babylon America. Maybe this end-time attack and destruction of Babylon America won't happen for 75 more years. Hey, maybe I will be dead by then, and I can just rest easy, stay put, and have a nice life. We all have deep roots in this place in Babylon America. Kids, grandkids, jobs, friends and family and loved ones. Truly the cost of leaving is very great. But then I thought, what if this end-time conflict and destruction of Babylon happens 5 years from now? Should I continue to sink roots, buy a house, continue working in the Babylon system? Or should I make preparations to leave? What if this end-time conflict and destruction of Babylon is only 6 months out? What would it take for you or me to pull up stakes and leave the country? But why play the odds in a crapshoot? The house always wins. Here is a Torah principle. Yahweh always warns before there is a judgment. He sent the 2 messengers to Lot in Sodom, and they were warned. They warned Lot and his family to leave, to flee. Lot did not want to leave. He loitered, and the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand in the hands of both of his daughters, Yahweh having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. Genesis 19, verse 16. The messengers had to forcibly take him out of Babylon. He did not want to go. How many of us do not want to leave Babylon, America today? It is not an easy choice or decision to make. Many of us have many deep roots here. A really big sign for me that it was time to flee Babylon, America was when the U.S. Supreme Court decision on gay marriage came down in June of 2015. Now gay marriage is legal in all 50 states. To me, this was a sign that the destruction of Babylon, America is near. In this week's Torah portion, we read in Genesis 18 and 19 about the total destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. These cities were utterly destroyed by fire and brimstone from heaven and have never ever been rebuilt. The destruction of the end-time daughter of Babylon nation is directly compared to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Here is what the scriptures tell us about that destruction. In Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 18, it is written, "As in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors, says Yahweh, no one shall remain there, nor shall a son of man dwell in it." And in Jeremiah chapter 50, verses 38 to 40, it is written, "A drought is against her waters, and they will be dried up, for it is the land of carved images, and they are insane with their idols. Therefore the wild desert beasts shall dwell there with the jackals, and the ostriches shall dwell in it. It shall be inhabited no more forever, nor shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighbors, says Yahweh, so no one shall reside there, nor son of man dwell in it." And finally, in Isaiah chapter 13, verses 19 and 20, it is written, "And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride, will be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It will never be inhabited, nor will it be settled from generation to generation, nor will the Arabian pitch tents there, nor will the shepherds make their sheepfolds there." Not all are called to flee. Some will remain and stay, to the saving of lives. Some may be martyred. Some may end up in FEMA camps. But some are called to leave, to flee. Here are some questions for you to think about and seek the Lord in prayer on. Are you called to stay and remain, or are you called to flee? Do you believe that the end-time daughter of Babylon nation is the USA? Do you believe that Yahweh will utterly destroy this daughter of Babylon nation? If yes, to the previous question, how far off in the future is this destruction? And finally, what would Yahweh have you to do? As you personally think through and pray through these really big questions, may the Father guide you in the decisions you'll need to make and the steps that He would have you take. I cannot answer these questions for you. This is between you and the Father. If you want to understand and know more about when to flee Babylon and where to flee to, I highly recommend Kimberly Rogers' teaching, The Time to Flee, Part 2. Blessings and Shalom.